I want to extend a warm welcome to each of you. And thank you for taking the time to be here today. I'm Jennifer Deshane, Director of Membership at the Ontario Pharmacists Association, and I will be your host and moderator. We're excited to bring you this webinar about a new membership benefit that many of you have been asking about for years. A quick reminder about membership. Our new membership year is coming up in the next few weeks. Please take a moment after today's session to log into your account, review your profile, and make sure your information, including your email address, billing address, and payment details are up to date. This helps you receive your benefits without interruption and ensures your professional information is current. With that, it's my pleasure to officially get us started tonight. OPA created the Group Savings and Pension Program because, as many of you know, there's no formal pension plan for pharmacists. We recognize the need to support our members' long-term financial security, so we developed a solution that provides access to long-term financial security and professional retirement savings tools, flexible options tailored to your career stage, and group pricing advantages. This is part of OPA's commitment to empowering your financial well-being today and into the future. To guide us through all of these exciting details, I'm pleased to introduce Michael Dutra. Michael is the Chief Executive Officer of the Dutra Wealth Management Group, with operations across Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. He is also an advisor to the Sick Kids Foundation, a role he takes great pride in. Michael holds several professional designations, including Trust and Estate Practitioner, Chartered Life Underwriter, and Certified Financial Planner. He is frequently featured in podcasts, in interviews, publications, and in other media outlets. And we are delighted to have him here with us this evening. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate that introduction. And to everyone on the call tonight, it's great to get a chance to speak with you. I'm just going to share the screen so we can get the presentation going, and let me know. Jennifer, if you can just let me know you can see this, and I will get started.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah,
we can.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's get started. Okay, so as Jennifer mentioned, we were in a very long discussion with multiple carriers, and through that, our discussions and with Manulife, they by far had the best options, the best customizations, etc., for the members of the OPA. So what we put together, who is it for? First and foremost, it's for all OPA members. Okay, so this is designed, whether you're a pharmacist, a pharmacy technician, a student, it has been designed to ensure absolutely everyone can participate and be a part of this. So that's good news for all the members. You don't, just have to be a pharmacist or student. Everyone can be part of this. Why do you need it? So, as Jennifer mentioned, there is no formal pension plan for pharmacists, as we know that, and the OPA absolutely wanted to create a solution that supports the financial long-term goals of all of its members. Now, what we've put together, there's essentially 4 different savings programs. The first is called a group RSP. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with an RSP. It's your own personal registered retirement savings plan. There's also a group RSP. Now, this is, again, a payroll deducted RRSP. It's designed, though, for your employees and possibly the employer to kind of come together on a savings plan. So as an employer, if you decide to match any of the contributions your employees are making, it is voluntary, but if you decide to match, every dollar you match is a tax deduction to your corporation. So you're going to get a bit of tax relief on that. For the employee's sake, they're going to get an instant bump up in their savings because they're getting matching, whether it's a percentage base of their salary or a flat amount, they're instantly getting essentially a rate of return. But they're also going to get an immediate tax relief. And I'm going to show you an example of that soon. But basically, as they save into this monthly, their net take-home pay can increase. And it's a tax calculation as to why that happens. And I'll show you a very clear example. So there's benefits from the employer, you get the tax deduction, benefits from the employee. On top of the matching, potentially, you actually can bring home more net on a paycheck basis, per paycheck basis. There's also extremely flexible investment options, and I'll get to the different investment managers, et cetera, in a bit, but it's very customizable per employee. It's not cookie cutter. You don't have to just take one style of investment. It's very much tailored to your kind of phase in life, whether you're closer to retirement, just starting off, somewhere in the middle, your risk tolerance, et cetera. Now, the second thing is a group TFSA. So similarly to a TFSA, I'm sure you're familiar with, this is a group TFSA, again, involving employees and the employer. So the difference with this is it's an after-tax savings plan, but it does provide tax-free growth within the investment account itself, as well as tax-free withdrawals. So I'll show a comparison of all these four options after, but the RSP grows tax deferred, but it's taxable when you withdraw it, but you do get the refund. This is a little bit different, where it grows tax-free on the withdrawal, but you just don't get the refund. Employer matching is also optional for this. So as an employer, you can match to the employee's TFSA. There is no tax deduction because it's a TFSA, but you still have the option to match if you'd like. And very importantly, as you grow your TFSA, as you grow all of your investment accounts, the TFSA, because it's tax-free on when you're withdrawing it, it has no impact on government benefits, especially OAS. And there's something called OAS clawback, which means if you're taking into income in your retirement years too much taxable income, the government can actually scale back some of the benefits that you're getting. So the TFSA does not account for that, so it won't have any impact on future government benefits. So something to consider. Now, the third is IPP for short, individual pension plan. This is meant for the owners. Okay, you have to be you have to have a corporation to do this. So this is a very personalized, it is a CRA registered pension plan, and it is tailored specifically for incorporated pharmacists. Now, this has a lot of benefits. So the first is the annual contribution limits are higher than that of an RSP. So in 2025, the RSP limit is $32,490. This is going to be higher than that. So it allows, as the incorporated pharmacist, you to put more in to the savings plan than if you were to putting it into your RSP. Now, this IPP is also corporately held. So it is a corporate savings account. It's not personal like RSP. Every dollar you put into this counts as a tax deduction. So as a corporation, if you were to put in $30,000, that $30,000 gets deducted from your corporate income at the end of the year, just like an office expense or salary or things like that. So what's nice about this is, yes, it does count as an actual tax deduction for whatever you put into your own IPP. It's what's called a defined benefit structure. So what this means is there's a formula, but it basically is able to provide a predictable retirement income when you do choose to retire. So, and there's actuaries we can work with to do some illustrations and things like that. But this is designed to provide an extremely predictable and reliable source of retirement income for you. Another nice thing is that there's creditor protection on this. So it's good to have. Hopefully you never have to worry about this, but there is creditor protection for your savings in the IPP. Last and certainly not least, the DPSP, so it's called Deferred Profit Sharing Plan. So this is, again, a CRA registered plan, but this is a profit sharing plan. So it allows employers to share profits with their employees in a very tax efficient way. So again, this is from the employer perspective, choosing to share some of the profits with the employees at the end of the year. So 100% employer funded contributions. The investments will grow tax deferred until withdrawal. So similar to an RSP, you're not paying any tax as the money grows, but on withdrawal, it does become taxable. it's cost effective for the employer to do this compared to giving your employees a raise, for example. As you put profits into this DPSP for your employees, you're not required to do any sort of CPP or EI contribution. So you do save those points versus giving your employee a raise and then having to pay CPP and EI. So this may be a bit of a strategic way to continue to give your employees more income, more bonuses, but you're doing it through a deferred profit sharing plan and not having to do the CPP and EI contributions. This compares all four I just went through, so I'll just take it from the top down. So tax deductible money put into the RSP, yes, it is tax deductible, not for the TFSA, but it is for the IPP to the corporation. It is for the DPSP as well. Tax deferred growth. So tax deferred means you're not paying tax, but there is technically a tax bill that will happen on the back end. So the RSP, the IPP, and the DPSP are tax deferred, but there will be tax on withdrawal. The TFSA is completely tax-free and completely tax-free on withdrawal. Employer contributions, as you can see, it is possible with the RSP and the TFSA. The IPP is just for the single incorporated pharmacist, and the DPSP is employer matching or employer profits. Tax-free withdrawals, TFSA is the only one that you can get the tax-free withdrawal, but then you can kind of argue you don't get the tax deduction. So just really what makes more sense for your personal situation. So why do any of this, right? Aside from the financial benefits and some of the perks I just talked about. First and foremost, and this is a very valid point, you really have to care about your employees' financial well-being. If that's just not something you've considered, or it's just not the relationship you have, that this may not be something that you're looking to do. So if you do care about your employees' financial well-being, this is something to strongly consider and definitely look into. It also is great for employee retention. So of all the group savings plans and group benefit plans and things like that, I've set up and just familiar with, the feedback is that the employees really appreciate it. They stick around longer. There's not as much churn. So this could be used to kind of retain your current employees, but think of it as a magnet to attract new employees and attract them for the long term. Once they're saving, and especially if you're matching as an employer, it's hard to find that elsewhere. And especially in the pharmacy world, it's not that common. So you will stand out as an employer, which brings me to my next point. But think of it as a magnet for new talent and to retain the current talent. On top of that, yes, there are the financial benefits. So, and that's for yourself and for the employee. So this is very much a two-way street. It's win-win for both. If there is additional cash flow in the corporation, this can be a very affordable style of savings plan. It does not have to break the bank. It does not have to cause you to sacrifice other things. It's quite a flexible style of plan that most likely, if there's a bit of cash flow at the end of the day, you could be, kind of figure out a plan that works for you. So with the group RSP, at the beginning, I mentioned that this can allow employees to actually take home higher net pays every paycheck they receive. And I'm going to show you kind of how that works. So the employees will receive immediate tax savings from what's called pre-tax contributions, which just means more take-home money. So let's just say they're making $60,000, and for just argument's sake, they're in the 30% tax bracket. Normally, if they're getting paid monthly, they're getting paid, they're paying tax on $5,000 a month, right? So if you contribute $500 a month into the group RSP, you're actually only going to get taxed on $4,500. So the extra $500 difference at 30% tax rate would provide the employee with $150 more take-home money per month. Now the difference is they won't get the RSP refund at the end of the year, which most people typically do, but instead of getting the refund as good as that feels at the end of the year, you could actually get that refund essentially a year earlier and divided monthly. So there's a time value of money, big advantage with that as well. Although it is nice to get that kind of big check at the end of the year, this is the way you can actually start receiving that a lot sooner and have basically your own money back to work for yourself. So again, this is another financial benefit for the employees. Now, I'll give you an IPP example. So this is someone age 50, that's their salary, 175,000, and they want to retire at age 65. So I'll show you this table essentially compares the IPP with the RSP in green. And as you can see, based on this specific example, there is a massive delta for the IPP advantage over, up to 1.4 million. If this isn't your exact scenario, there's going to be still a big net delta between the difference. And the reason is because you can save more per year, your savings are going to be higher, you're going to get tax deductions. And there's something called past service as well, which just means you may be eligible to actually almost like back contribute for previous years you were earning income. So you can almost do like a lump sum into it as well and get the tax deduction. So there's a lot of different benefits and kind of ways you can go about this. And through Manulife, they'll offer a illustration that will be customized to you. It will show exactly how much you're eligible for, if you're eligible for past contributions, and really break down your specific example. So there's no cookie cutter illustrations. This would be part of the process for the IPP. Step one is to get the illustration for yourself, see what the numbers look like, and then make a decision. Now I'll show you just a kind of a different way to look at this. So this is how much the same example could expect to receive in retirement. And you can see it's 46% higher. So this is that steady, stable income that I was talking about. And regardless whether it's 46% higher or even less, there's going to be a delta in how much you receive in your retirement income moving forward. So certainly something to at least look at and make a decision for yourself. Now, as far as investment options, so some of these companies here, you'll have access to these companies' funds. So this isn't just Manulife. There's huge names here like BlackRock, Jarislowsky Fraser, Connor Clark and Lund, huge funds and firms that you can pick from their essentially like shelf for investments to make your investments as well. There's a few different styles of funds. So for example, if this is like Manulife has called no touch, which means it's target date funds, which kind of automatically adjust the closer you get to certain retirement dates. There's low touch funds for those who want to spend some time, but not, overly active. And then for those who are almost the do-it-yourselfers, there's a very high touch style of investments you can select as well. So it really does fit each person's own experience with investing and kind of willingness to be involved or not involved with this. So I'm sure there's an option for you. Now, some of the most common questions we've received so far about this, I have 5. So the first is, how much can I contribute to each plan, and do employer contributions count towards my limits? So for RSP and TFSA, yes, both your own contributions and the employer contributions do count as towards your own limit. So you have to just make sure whatever your limit is, you're not going over it. For the DPSP, as you can see, it does not use RSP room, but it can affect something called your pension adjustment the next year. And IPP is employer only, so it will reduce the RSP contribution. Then the next is, are contributions deducted automatically from my paycheck? Can I change the amount? And the answer is yes. You choose how much, it will be automatically deducted, and you can increase, decrease, stop, etc. Based on the employer's plans rules. Does my employer have to match my contributions? As I said, no, it is not mandatory. It is optional. Of course, we encourage it, but it's not mandatory. But some people do dollar for dollar up to a certain amount percent of their salary. What happens if I leave essentially to my savings plan? So for group RSP and TFSA, it's yours. It can be transferred to a personal plan at any time. The DPSP funds are typically subject to vesting, so it just depends if you're in that vesting schedule or not. If you are not, you may be forfeiting some of that amount. So it just depends on the timeline. But there are ways, if you do leave, that the money, goes with you. And then can I contribute both to group and personal plans? So the questions, if I have my own personal RSP and TFSA, can I still be saving into that? The answer is yes, you can do both. You just have to make sure you stay within the limits. That's all. Now, how to get started? Pretty easy. So you can reach out to Alex Bertola, who is the account executive at Manulife, or myself. And for, as I mentioned, the IPP, it's an illustration that gets created for yourself, and it looks at your previous incomes, how much you've been paying yourself, and it will do a full calculation of how much you can contribute, any back service payments, etc. for the group RSP, TFSA, and DPSP. We'll provide some information. We'll go over the options, and hopefully we can make a decision on that. That is it for me, Jennifer. I believe. Let me see if we have some questions. Happy to
You.
take that.
Thank you very much, Michael. You've presented us with a wealth, pun intended, a wealth of information this evening, and provided everyone here on the call with a high level of detail and also a level of familiarity that we're keen to navigate the options that you've presented and spend some time in a deeper understanding of how some of those might look for each person, noting it's very customizable and there's unique preferences and risk tolerance that that each person may have. So on that note, I just wanted to, if you could discuss briefly a little bit more about the risk tolerance question, because that was something you had touched upon in your presentation as well. And you noticed some of the more high touch and different options there was one of your kind of later slides. But I think that's something that may really resonate with people, especially as they're kind of learning where they may kind of fit along the spectrum.
Certainly. So before you decide on any investment, you'll receive all of the options. You'll be able to see what's in the investment, what the previous historical returns have been, who managed it, etc. So we have very conservative funds. There's even fixed income style funds. And then there's just funds with more equity, which can lead to more volatility. So that's when I say high risk, it's typically just a means of more equity in the fund. But you can like switch between them. And I'm sure, based on your risk tolerance and risk style and timeline in life and what you're looking to do, there will be a fit, but it's yeah, you're not going to be short on options. There's quite an extensive list of investment options with this.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that as well. And you also touched a little bit earlier on some of the options around the limits to contributions as well. Could you go into a little bit more detail around how that aspect works?
Sure. So everybody every year has, for say for RSP, for an example, it's based on 18% of the previous year's income. So everybody has technically a slightly different limit. There is an overall maximum limit that we all have to kind of abide by, but it's just important to know, which will be on your CRA My Account or your notice of assessment. It will show, okay, your current contribution limit is X amount. So when you're factoring in how much you're going to save, plus if there's employer matching, you just have to make sure you're below that. Going above that will, lead to there's penalties and things like that from the CRA perspective of just over contributing. And same with the TFSA. I'm sure people have seen tons of articles on notoriously people unintentionally over contributing and they're getting hit with penalties. So it's just very important to just track, if you've made contributions, how much, what's your limit, and then you work backwards. That's all.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. That question seems to come up a lot, especially in the early days of trying to kind of navigate and understand how that piece works. So it's great to
I
get
like it. Exactly. You mean like you can't just say I'm going to save $100,000 into my TFSA. That like you have to have the limit to do so. If it's great, but it's not it's not just as subjective as you like it to be.
Yeah, and you also talked about the contributions that can be matched by employers, but it's not necessarily required that the employer matches the contribution. So I think that's a really interesting question, particularly for our membership and the demographic and the composition of our membership. If you'd like to just kind of go into a little bit more depth on that one. I know you did share the initial details and preliminary information, but it may merit repeating and bear repeating to kind of
Yeah, for
illuminate a
sure.
little bit more about
So
that.
I'll give you a quick example. Like say the employee is saving $100 a paycheck and you're matching, 20, 30, 40, $50 on that up to a certain limit. That's an instant rate of return from their perspective. Their 100 is now worth 120 or 130, and that's before the fund hopefully goes up as well. So it's any matching program's a massive benefit to like the saver, right? Whoever's matching. Now, as the employer, you are getting the tax deduction and the employee retention. So there's benefits both ways, but it's the long-term benefits of matching, regardless of the rate of return, whether it saves flat or makes 5% or less or more, that matching will have such an impact on how much that account's worth. And then, make the relationship probably a little stickier from the employee-employer relationship, long term, more
Mm-hmm.
fruitful, um, and a magnet to attract, new talent as well.
Mm-hmm. 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 And yeah, you also noted the switching employers question that's come up from time to time. Just the pharmacy workforce, sometimes there is some transition within it. So I thought that was an interesting point as well, that there are options around that piece.
Yeah, yeah. Don't feel fearful that if you start with pharmacy A and then go to B, lose all your money or anything like that.
Mhm.
For the TFSA and RSP, that's not the case. The DPSP, there is some vesting, but it shouldn't be a too big of an issue or a concern.
Mhm, mhm. And I see we have a question here actually, Michael. It's can
Oh, I
you?
do see that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, progress.
Yeah. Feel free to go ahead.
So the question is, can you speak on the benefit for OPA members compared to working with another financial institution? So depending on which of the four you're asking about or considering, um, like the first thing is we have a group pricing advantage. So Manulife has worked with the OPA and as a collective, even though each, say, group RSP is on an individual pharmacy basis, it's being seen as like an umbrella style of pension. So there is going to be group pricing as well. And like the matching as well. So it just depends if you go to another institution, that's going to be a huge thing as well. Um, that's probably the biggest things. The OPA worked very hard, I will say, to put this together. So if you haven't done it elsewhere yet, I don't know why someone would, I would probably entertain this first. It's been set up specifically for the OPA and based on their needs. So it is quite a robust program to put together.
Great, thank you, and thanks for your question as well, Chris. And you talked about vesting in the previous question. It's a word that a lot of people use, but it's not necessarily familiar to everyone, especially people who are new to this landscape. So I wonder if you could share a little bit more about that
Sure.
aspect as well.
So with the DPSP, there typically is a what's called a vesting schedule, which means it could take perhaps for the profits the employer is sharing with the employee has to stick around for, say, 3 years to
Mm-hmm,
fully earn that amount. If they don't, they leave a bit before, then they'll have to give up some of whatever you put in. So, I
mm-hmm,
mean, it's a fair trade-off if you think of it, right? The employer's
mm-hmm,
giving profits to the employee, they just have to stick around, a little bit to fully earn that. So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pretty fair kind of two-way relationship, but
Yeah,
that's what vesting means.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Oh, I see another question here, Michael, if you wanted to
Yep,
pop in.
dimensional funds. I will get back to you on that. I don't know if they are dimensional fund products. Okay, I'll make a note of that, but I'll find out for you. The
Okay,
question, I don't know if everybody can see the question, but are dimensional funds Canada products available through Manulife?
okay. We'll look into that one. Great. Great. Well, I really appreciate you joining us this evening. It's been an illuminating half hour here that we've been able to spend together, and I know that people will be reaching out to you afterwards with more questions. So we certainly welcome anyone who has any questions on this evening's presentation, anything you may have seen to pique your interest, curiosity, or something you've been thinking about for quite some time, and you'd like to speak with Michael or his colleagues about learning more and actioning that. Certainly, as Michael said, he would welcome any outreach, and we definitely appreciate the time you've spent with us tonight, Michael, and thanks
Thank you.
everyone for joining.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Take care.